I'm so excited to have Deborah Henderson, who is also a former investor banker, but also she has been studying the money system in the last few decades a lot, and her mission is to bring this to the world, but also working with leaders how to understand that system. So Deborah, welcome back again. You're a big supporter of Global Women Community, and we're very grateful for that.
Thank you very much, dear Mirela. First, I'd just like to ask how many people feel we live in turbulent times? And how many people feel that the turbulent times we're living in is impacting our own body system? I think we need to pay attention to this. We need to pay attention to our body systems, because this is also going to impact our relationship with money. And I asked the question of Lata when she gave her talk a moment ago about how she developed such confidence. And her answer, if you remember, was to say to know oneself. And that means all our gifts and all our foibles. Because in an uncertain world, those foibles may start to rise to the surface, and we may forget about the gifts. I'm trusting that the camera can also be pointing to the fire, which is sitting right beside me. So I'm feeling very blessed for my body needs at the moment, that I'm feeling warm and cozy with the fire. When I say know thyself, our gifts and our foibles, my proposal is that we look and own what our gifts are that we want to offer the world. What does the world need? And what are our gifts? And how can we match those? And when we really hold a strong sense of purpose, there's an overall saying by Paulo Coelho, follow your heart and there you'll find your treasure. And I suggest it's when we truly own our gifts and we put them to purpose that serves the world, all our needs will be met, including money. There's a flow, but it starts with knowing self and honoring those gifts that are uniquely ours. And we may not have been brought up in an environment where our gifts were honored or recognized. And we may have followed environments that were similar to our upbringing. And so we can have been constantly having reasons why certain circumstances and people might chip away from our sense of confidence, which is what I declared I felt that Lata had. How do we press pause in 2025 in a turbulent world and own this is our moment to truly step inside and know our gifts? And if you don't know them, find people around you who can support you to own them. And how those gifts can then serve the world. Take time for this. I'd like to ask a question of the group so I have a sense of my audience. How many of you believe we are spiritual beings living a human existence? How many believe you've been here before and you've had a past life or 2 or 3? And I notice the giggles in the room. And I notice we've got variety in the room. Not everybody is necessarily going to be following that logic or that path. But the premise I come from, as I'm sharing what I'm going to share, comes from that belief. Our money system is based on our fear of death. If we believe that we're spiritual beings living a human existence, and we chose our parents, our circumstances, where we were born, and even our life's journey, then we can take full accountability. We can start to own what those gifts are, and we can dance with the divine, because the divine has our back, even if not everybody necessarily does. We may invite lots of challenges in our lives. They're for our learning and our growth. And you might say, what does this have to do with money? I'm getting there. So yes, I did an undergraduate, I'm Canadian, I did an undergraduate degree in languages, got an MBA, and in those days, with this white hair, we were 10% women in business school in Canada, which was double the year before that, which was double the year before that. And I decided with that confidence that I could do anything. And I thought if I could land a job in Wall Street, I could understand how money makes the world go round. And then if I understood that, I could go anywhere. And so I did land a job in Wall Street, which then took me to London because I decided I wanted to continue my languages. And I left investment banking when I thought I was getting married and would be moving to Denver. And the universe had other plans. He was Mr. Right to get me out of investment banking, and I was meant to find a path to share, I believe, how money does make the world go round. Maybe that's what it is. I suddenly realized that, connecting the dots in my own life. So for the last 25 years, I've been a leadership coach, working with leaders to help them create healthy cultures. We could apply those healthy cultures to our own lives, to our families, to businesses we set up, to communities we're helping to build, as in Global Woman and Global Man, and be observers, if we're in the corporate world, to how culture is built and how much of it is around supporting us to find our gifts and develop them, and how much of it is around being a human resource, a clog in a wheel, to fulfill a role that pays us some money. We've got to keep focusing, even if we're in the corporate world, on what our gifts are and how we can serve mankind, because that's the law of the universe. The divine wants us to shine our gifts, and the divine will support us, and money will flow when we fully believe that. We also need to focus on what our foibles are, be aware of them, and to know that the money system is designed to exacerbate those foibles and hook us into believing that money will solve the foible problem. Thank you, Lata, for nodding that you're agreeing with what I'm sharing. Does that make sense? So all of us will have had different childhood circumstances, and we will have inherited ancestral circumstances that will bring out those foibles. I love the word foibles because you can attach anything to it. Okay?
Could you say what foibles is then?
It's a very good question. I wondered if somebody was going to ask that. Julia, thank you. If I were to look up the word foible in the dictionary, I think it just means something that's a little off. So we could call it a wound that's never been healed, that we were born with possibly, that we brought from past life possibly, that we brought from our ancestral line possibly, or that we inherited somehow in a traumatic upbringing in our family. But the position of our family, in our family, can create protection mechanisms or security mechanisms or any one of a number of different mechanisms where we will seek to find our place, seek to see how we could be recognized in the family. Our money system, which we need to all pay attention to, so I started out this talk by asking how many feel that we're living in turbulent times. What you also need to be aware of is our money system was designed by man, even if Judith earlier said money is like the air we breathe. We treat it as if it were nature. It's not. We don't come out of the womb saying, "Mummy, mummy, I need money." We come out saying, "I need food, I need milk, I need love." That's the most important element. And we've got to remember, as Lata said, to provide that love for ourselves, even if we didn't get it in the amount that we needed as a child. We cannot substitute that lack of love with money and expect that we're going to be able to live a free life. When I say free, meaning in flow. Mirela's created a lovely group in the Global Women Club, which she calls the Influencer Club. The Latin root of the word for influence, if we want to have an impact with our gifts, influence means in Latin to flow, influere. I suggest being in flow means having all parts, body, mind, heart, and spirit in flow. So we know our gifts and we know our wounds that stops us from being in flow. When we're in flow, money will flow. It's the law of the universe, because that's what we put out, that's what we attract back. A magnetic enterprise. Because our money system that we were born into was designed by man in a bizarre way. We have to ask ourselves why it was designed that way, but we have to accept for now it is designed that way, and that is that our money system gives no value to Mother Earth, to Mother Nature, to mothering, to motherhood, or to any of the feminine values. And we sit here as global women wondering why we may have a lack of confidence. Some of us, dear Lata, I said I wanted to comment about the fact that you were speaking with a lot of confidence. But many of us may go, do I have that same level of confidence? I'd like us to reflect on the system we were born into. This system does not give value to the feminine as it is now. That doesn't mean we have to live under the archway of that system and be not able to navigate it. It means we need to be aware of it, conscious of it. Our soul chose to be born now in this world. And with communities like Global Women, we can rise above it. We need community to support in a system where the feminine is not supported by money. By the way, the money system is designed. That doesn't mean that money won't flow to you. It's just we need to be aware. It impacts how we show up if we're not careful. That's why I shine a spotlight on it. But this impacts men, not just women, because it's out of balance. If we consider that money is meant to be an enabler for us to live our dreams, to birth anything new, we need the masculine and the feminine. In harmony, in balance, in love, ideally. And when we exclude giving value to the feminine, we will tend in our world to create the shadow masculine, which creates the shadow feminine, which means we all will operate on our money system in a vibrational level of fear when we're meant to vibrate at a vibrational level of love. We have to know that's the system that we chose to be born into. And it's changing. I believe that 2025 is the beginning of the demolition of the old and the rising up of the new. So let us stay tuned to that. What we also need to bear in mind, and I'm not going to try to outline how to create a new money system because it's very technical. And at this juncture, we could go fiat currency, we could go digital currency, we could look at any one of a number of different ways. But we do know what we need inside, and that is a love-based currency. And we can go there even before the money currency gets reestablished in its technical forms. We have to, for our survival as a species and as a planet. So we need to find support with each other. But here's the other hook piece that men and women need to be aware of. With our out-of-balance money system as it's designed, we will tend to project onto money what are the wounded, unhealed parts of ourselves. So we need to know those foibles. And we need to know what's needed to heal them. Because otherwise we will get caught in a hook. So let's just ask around the room, how many feel, if you dig deep, that money provides a sense of security for you? I'm going to go up the chakras, just the bottom three chakras, so you know. So as you reflect on it, how much does money provide security, and where does that need come from? How much is it from your family? How much is it from your upbringing? How much of a hook are you on security? It almost doesn't matter how much money you have. Security is still a need because you're afraid you're going to lose it, possibly. Dig deep to know that relationship. And it's in our language. After all, we say we have to earn our living in order to buy securities.
The only animal that's to earn a living.
Next, how many feel that money gives them a sense of belonging? They actually can then join the crowd of the people they would like to be with. It gives you a sense of belonging. It almost gives you a sense of love. It almost gives you a sense you could buy love with it. That was my wound. Still is. From having felt abandoned as a child. I'm sure that's why I went straight to Wall Street. Admittedly, my father's wound, and he wanted me to go to Wall Street, was a fear of failure. Oh, if you go to Wall Street, you're made. My eldest daughter, his eldest daughter, me, could go to Wall Street and he could feel secure that I had made it, right? How many people recognize that money also provides a sense of status or power or recognition or self-esteem? Yeah. So for those where the camera isn't showing, we had a lot of people saying security. We had a lot of people saying money was self-esteem, or what I call the solar plexus chakra. I'd still ask us to look at the loved one, okay, of the sacral chakra and where that can show up, because it's hidden. It could be linked possibly with the amount we give. And for some people, money is freedom of choice. But we need to know what are those hooks that money creates for us. And if we don't know them, money will continue to hook us there. And then it's money driving us rather than our gifts and our offers for the world being the driver of our sense of purpose to be in flow. When we've got our sense of purpose and we've got alignment around all of our chakras in our bodies, we're connected to the ground, divine ground, and connected to others around, and we're clean a conduit as we can be, we'll be ready for the turbulence that's not only in this year, but in subsequent years, because the state of the world is showing it's no longer fit for purpose. We should not be having the global wars that we've got going on, and we should not be having global wars where nobody is outcrying about the pain and suffering. Where's the outcry? It used to be there. There's so many areas where we know there's change that needs to happen. Let's pay attention. I'm just naming the last piece is that in Vedic wisdom, how many are aware of what the Kali Yuga means? No? Okay. Kali, yes. Kali in, is it Sanskrit, means dark materialism. We are coming to the tail end of 3,000 years of dark materialism. At the tail end of any regime, the old will always fight to stay in power and in authority. Watch. The old is seeking to stay in power and in authority. If we can observe this and not be hooked by it, just go. I chose to be born in these turbulent times, to be the age and stage I am. We can together rise above. And the new world, beyond the Kali Yuga, and there's many traditions, I just brought in the Indian one, but there's many traditions that are speaking to 2025 being a turbulent year of change. 2026 begins the actual stepping stones for the next stages. And by 2032, the claim is we'll be living in the fifth dimension rather than the three-dimensional world. And in the Indian tradition, it goes from Kali Yuga to Sat Yuga, which is truth and light. So that's for us to look forward to. We just happen to be in the early stages of 2025 right now. We've got to know our relationship with money. We've got to know and accept how it's designed. We've got to know that we chose to be born into these challenging, turbulent times with our wounds and with our gifts. We stick to our sense of purpose. We can, with community, navigate this turbulent time and see the new world being born, where we can be a part of that.
And to bring this at this moment where it's the beginning of a new era, at the beginning of the new year, a beginning of a new direction, because as I said, when we came here not by accident. We are here for a reason. Somehow, something that we are seeking is seeking us. Something that maybe deep inside us we know is coming, but as Deborah said, you just have to be ready and prepare. And as women, but of course as men, as all together, let's learn a little bit more who we are. As that is my takeaway from Lata. Learn who you are, because once we get to understand each other and get to know each other, and deep inside us, coming from us, who we are in fact. Okay, questions? We have Lakshmi.
Deborah, first I must say, wow, thank you so much for your insight and wisdom. I've taken copious notes here, especially when you were talking about obviously understanding those hooks that keep us in that fear state, or in that state with the chakras. So once we sort of identify those hooks and we recognize those within ourselves, what's your advice to like sort of overriding that and becoming unhooked?
Thank you. So I'm just going to take a moment to do a little propaganda for a book I'm writing on this, and you can go to chapter 13 to find the answer. But I will tell you what the answer. So I'm calling the book, just so we can hold it together, if you don't mind. I'm calling the book Bubble Wrapped Betrayal. Our money system is a betrayal of who we are, and we use money to bubble wrap ourselves from even looking at how we've betrayed ourselves in life. So now, to your question, dear Lakshmi, we need to reclaim those projections. And sometimes there's a whole course that can be done on this, but just to give you a couple of examples. Let's say I own that I have a really big security need. And let's say it comes because I've got a family heritage of refugees or war zones. And it's in my DNA, those security, okay? So I need to say to myself, but it's usually helpful if I've got somebody to support me, I feel and I am insecure. And that's amazing. I am secure with and without money is the second part of the question of the reclamation. Okay? So let's say for the third chakra, since many of you have spoken to self-esteem issues, I'm needy. I don't recognize praise. I'm not worthy. And that's awesome. I am independent. I am recognized. I am worthy, with and without money.
Deborah loved the speech. It's so deep. You usually get either spiritual people who care about Mother Earth and the feminine and the divine, and then you get the finance people who care about finance and money. And to get someone like you who embraces both, it's very, very special. I guess I get goosebumps. So your work is so important. Now that we recognize that our money system is broken, what can we each do as small steps to help that?
Therein lies the question. Therein lies, so I'm going to link these two comments together, okay? Because therein lies the question. If we own that our money system was designed to break us, if that is a truth, there are many players in previous centuries that through the money system were in fact broken, yes. And we are at a stage where we're now aware and there's shifting happening. And that may or may not be true, that it was designed on purpose. Because that keeps us as a victim. Whatever, it was designed that way. And therein lies the risk, is that with that design we can become easily enslaved with money. And maybe it's meant to teach us something so that we come out of it ready for the Sat Yuga when it arrives, to be able to fully embrace love, because we've been through the pain and we know what that means. So back to your question, Julia, I just think it's so important we find support systems to really support ourselves in our journey so that we recognize where we're hooked. And don't blame ourselves. Just say it is part of the system. I chose to be born into this system, and I'm choosing to navigate it, and I need support. It's really hard to do this on our own because systems are bigger than individuals. But as people who are choosing our sense of purpose, we can be leaders together of the new, conscious of what we've chosen and the environment we're in. The critical thing for me is first and foremost our relationship with money. Because regardless of what is created of the new, if we still hold the old entrapments of money when the new arrives, we'll be keeping ourselves back in the same old spiral downwards. And we are meant to operate from a love frequency. And guess what? Very quickly. How many people know David Hawkins' work? His overall calculation, this is a quantum physicist, US, no longer alive, wrote the first book called Power versus Force. His comment overall in measuring the frequencies of each of our emotional states is that the lowest vibrational frequency of any emotional state is shame at 50. The highest is enlightenment at 1,000. Courage is 200, and that's the borderline between fear-driven emotions and love-driven emotions. Love itself is 500. So below 200 you have anger, vengeance, victim, etc. One person vibrating at the frequency of love can counterbalance 750,000 people coming from anything below 200. So if we count the 20 people or so in the room, 20 of us vibrating at love, what's 20 times 750,000 people? Lata? Anyway, it's either 15 million or it's 15 billion, but it's 15 million, I think. 150 million. Do you see? So what I've worked out is that we could support 12 companies of 1,000 leaders of 12 companies of 1,000 people each. We could count and have them operate at the love frequency. We could counterbalance the vibrational frequency of the rest of the world. It doesn't take that much, but we can work on that together. And the work you're doing, Lata, in the giving piece is a huge part of what this love frequency, pure love frequency, is all about. Not that it's giving in order to take, but giving for the sake of, because that's what it feels like, from the heart. We've got to know the purity of the giving. That's the most important part.